Hello, my name is Kai, and today I'm going to be analyzing the Liverpool versus AC Milan game that took place in the Kai Tak Stadium in Hong Kong. Now before I get into it, it'd be great if you could like the video, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter. But let's get into it by first looking at the formation. So in this game, Liverpool played a 4-2-4 where we effectively had a double false 9 in the middle of Florian Wirtz and Harvey Elliott. I'm only really going to be looking at the first half, mainly because the second half was very chaotic. In the second half, we saw 4 different fullbacks play in the likes of Kostas Tsimikas, Milos Kerkez, Jeremy Frimpong, and Connor Bradley. We also saw 3 players in the central midfield positions with Ben Doak as the striker, having the likes of Ryan Gravenberch, Trey Nioni, and Curtis Jones being the 3 in midfield, with Gakpo out on the left wing. So because of how weird that game was, the second half was, I'm not really going to analyze that half. What I also want to make clear is that Liverpool were missing a lot of senior players, so a lot of players played out of position. That could explain why we really struggled out of possession with our pressing and our defending on the last line. And Verge having to play next to Ryan, who's not really a natural right center back, was definitely difficult, and Robertson was also caught out of possession when he was defending. I thought Robertson was actually pretty good in possession, but out of possession it was a real struggle. Also halfway through this half, we also saw Trey Nioni come in for Tyler Morton, but I'm less so going to be focusing on individual players aside from Wirtz and Rio, and I'm mostly just going to be looking at the system and our build-up as a whole. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to go ahead and look at the game. What you can clearly see here is the semblance of the 3-2-5/3-1-6 that I've been talking about for a really long time. In this case, Ryan is the right center back. You can see that Andrew Robertson is the left center back. Virgil van Dijk is the central center back. And Tyler Morton is the one who's sort of dropping in. And he's also the one who's most likely to split the 2 center backs and build up as well for an alternative version of the 3-2-5-3-1-6 shape. So now as we progress forward, we can see that Verge is currently out of frame, but we have Tyler Morton dropping in, Dom sort of dropping in, and we're kind of getting the formation of the box that we want to see in the middle when we have this double false 9. We sort of see this form. We kind of get this pseudo box that is now here in the midfield with Flo, Harvey, Tyler, and Sabo. We have Lucas Stevenson occupying this half space. Rio's isolated here. The idea is for Robertson to maybe potentially be here, and Mo is still out wide. And we are seeing more of Mo out wide than him being central. So we're starting to kind of see the pattern that maybe the right back is going to be in the right half space more often, with Mo in the conductor role that we've been talking about. But again, it's still early and there were personnel differences. Again, the point of this is just sort of to continually analyze the shape. So we're still seeing a very similar thing here with the build-up structure. We're seeing at times that Verge can go direct, which is also something that I talked about that we could see going out to someone like Robbo. The ball eventually gets back to Flo and ends up with Rio. Now, the entire point of me showing you this sequence is basically just to talk about the initial build-up structure. It's a bit odd, which is why you're kind of seeing Flo sometimes go a little higher up the pitch, Sabo going a little bit higher up the pitch. It's more so like this than like you're an orthodox box. That's kind of why I set it up earlier with Elliott sort of a bit withdrawn, because it looks a lot more like this in terms of structure. Now, I don't think this is what we're going to see this season. I do think it's going to be adjusted a bit more. I just think that for this game, because it's the double false 9, and if we are to utilize a double false 9 this season, it'll probably look more like this. So in this scenario, we have Mo receiving the ball out wide. He attempts to come inside, he passes the ball inside, and we get this really neat scenario where Mo is able to find himself centrally, and eventually the ball kind of ricochets out and ends up with Luka. The point of this is we're seeing Mo sort of enter his conducting role again. We saw him start out wide and pass his way inside with the goal of flying into the box. What this is telling us is that this is probably something that Arne wants from Mo. He wants for him to be able to pick up the ball deep, pass inside, and be able to get in this way. Maybe this is because he wants Mo to be more part of build-up because he's losing these athletic attributes, so he wants him to pass and dribble more. Or maybe it's just Mo taking up a more selfless position instead of the one last season where he was effectively the focal point who would bring the ball down, shove his fullback, and then run in. I think with our shift to much more technical technical footballers and a technical style of play, we are going to see a lot more of Mo in this role, and it'll be interesting to see how he develops, because you don't really expect Mo to be on the touchline like this. But when we're close to the, box, you could see an easy combination that allows Mo to potentially pass the ball in or behind like this, sweep in, receive, and then cut inside and shoot. So it's definitely not a bad idea, and I could see it being something that works very well for us this season. So now we see an example of Mo making that pass in behind. I would have immediately thought that Mo would now try to get inside with Luka, but I think because of where Luka's moving, he can't as easily do that. This leads to Harvey passing back, but now Mo has another lane where he can find Luka, who's running in behind. Of course he finds him because it's Mo. Luka now rotates in to try to give the ball to Harvey, but Mo is still pretty far out. I think it's because Tyler pushed up. Mo can't occupy this channel, so he stays further back, and Elliott looks to pass to the only person he really can, which is Flo. At least safely. The only person he can pass to safely. Ball gets back to him. He passes to Flo, who now has only really 2 passing targets. He can either attempt to give this ball to Mo, but it's easily intercepted, or get it to Tyler. And because of how efficient Flo plays, he gives the ball to Tyler, who takes it, redistributes it back. Mo is still in this wide position. He's barely moved. We recycle the ball, and then Verge tries to dribble through the whole team like he's Messi. The point of me showing this is just we're seeing more examples of Mo in this wide conducting position. It seems like something that he's going to do a lot during build-up this season. I really like the positions that Flo took inside, but also it's interesting what we're seeing in terms of our in possession play, because what we're watching is when we're in the final third, right, and you're seeing these very fluid combinations that are happening, like in this case you saw something more like this. We were getting really aggressive. Like, both of these pivot players being this close to the box is dangerous, and it's probably why we got countered, because Ryan doesn't really know where to be unless Verge is telling him where to be, and Robbo was taking up the aggressive final position of our left back that you're going to expect Milos Kerkez to do. So we really were isolating Verge at times and leading to scenarios where Rafael Leao could just run in behind. So I don't think this level of suicidal play is something that we're going to look to do. And I think if you got a more orthodox center back here, a more intelligent left back, and 2 pivot players who actually know what they're doing in the pivot, Dom's just not naturally a pivot player. He drifted too far forward, and Tyler is a good player, but I think he was just drifting a little bit too much. He wanted to impact the play too much. So here's a scenario of us pressing. I was really curious to see how we were going to press. Initially, to me, this effectively looked like a 4-2-4, but Elliott pressed, then you see Florian Wirtz press, and it kept going around. So now it's like Rio's pressing, he's pressing, the whole team is shifting over to try to contain it. But unlike last season, where if you bypass the front 4, it was effectively over, that's not at all what we saw. What we saw is the ball gets pushed back, and now Tyler is looking to press onto the next man. Luka's stepping up even more. Because of how close they're getting into here, Tyler is now looking to lock onto this man. Sabo's further up. The whole midfield appears to be pressing as a unit. It feels more like a front 6. It forces Mike Magnan to make the most obvious pass out to this player, which is pretty easy for our right back in Luka to latch onto. We get some nice intelligent movement from Tyler so that he can receive the ball and pass it back to Ryan. Now, what this told me immediately is we're seeing a much more intense Bronkhorst-like press. We're seeing the entire team push forward here. And if we are forcing them to knock the ball long, if our fullbacks can then intercept, we have a whole block of players now who are then able to counterattack and potentially score a goal. So I was very, very pleased with what we're seeing from our press. It's much more Klopp-like, much more intense, much more Bronkhorst-like. It was a good press, and I'd like to see more of this throughout the season. So this is the resulting sequence of that after we settle in a little bit. The reason I thought this was interesting was I kind of thought we're seeing Mo isolated out on the right a lot, and it was something I talked about in a video before, that we might see Mo get isolated and only have to play against one player, the fullback who latches onto him, and it could create space for a right back to run in behind. Because imagine this is Jeremy Frimpong. If this player gets dragged, Frimpong runs in, Mo gets the ball and immediately threads it. It's a great great shooting opportunity. So I think we are going to see a lot more of that and expect a decent amount of assists or pre-assists from Mo this season. I liked this example because it showed that once we kind of get past our halfway line, it's looking more like a 4-4-2, which is interesting. It's definitely better defensively, but I liked seeing Mo come further back in a settled defense. Just looks better. Now, I don't like that there's all this space between these two lines, but it was just situational, I think. And I also don't like how isolated the player is out there, but it is a bit different to what we did last season. Now, the reason I brought up this panel was because it shows that our left back doesn't necessarily have to be this close that we've been talking about before. In this scenario, Allison took the middle role to allow the left back to push up, which is something I actually want to discuss as an idea really briefly. What this is essentially doing is we're splitting the center backs here, because this is definitely way more dangerous to do, right? You need one of these players to connect. But I could see worlds against weaker teams that Allison does split the center backs, or Mamardashvili instead of Allison splits the center backs, or Freddie Woodman, or whatever we want to do, splits the two center backs and does this. We haven't seen a lot of it this season yet. We've seen a lot more of like Ali here with a player here, or, you know, a player out here. But it's interesting. Definitely a more aggressive way that we could build up. And it's something that might suit the idea of our fullbacks being essentially wingers. So let's continue. Here's another example of Mo in the conducting position, except this time he finally does what I was saying. He makes the run in behind after Flo receives this ball. Flo gets it back and he's able to pass it to Elliot, who has a lot of options. He doesn't end up doing anything good, but he could go here, could pass back. He ends up looping this ball in, which doesn't really work. He could theoretically go ball to feet. Just an interesting sequence where we are seeing Mo being able to get central, like I've been talking about. So here's another example. The reason I'm bringing this up is this is the goal that we conceded. You know, the goal we conceded. The issue I have here and why I see how we conceded this is our left back, our right back, and our right center back. That's suicide. I was talking about how close these players were getting. It's just too dangerous. Again, the offside rule only kicks in once you leave your own half. So even if Liao was standing here, he would be onside. So it's just dangerous. It was very dangerous to do this. I do blame Ryan a lot for this goal because Luke is meant to be pushed up really high. Robbo in the final third can be pushed up really high. Ryan was trying to do a little bit of an Ibu slamming into midfield impression, but he just isn't a center back who can be aware of these things. So he was caught out. Of course, Rafael Liao is the fastest man on the pitch. He gets behind Luka. People said Verge should go full tilt and tackle it. I think if this is a real game, he does and he stops him. I think because it's preseason and the risk of injury is pretty high, he's not going to slide in and kill him. Again, there's only one center back defending Rafael Liao in a one-on-one. That's rough. He takes his shot and he makes it. I think all three of our goals came as a result of losing the ball high up, except for the last one, the fourth one, which was just a dumb back pass. He just cost us, killed Mamardashvili. And I think the moral of this is just you need to have two real center backs on the pitch, and both of your fullbacks, especially the left back, needs to think more about the potential defensive implications of going so high up the pitch. The right back, you can't blame him. That's effectively his role. So it's just on, I think, mostly Ryan for that. And our midfield in general was just way too open in this game. And I don't think that's something that will happen once we have our actual personnel in, especially someone like McAllister, because of how intelligent he is at reading space and filling in wherever he needs to. So here's an example of our press. The reason I brought up this one is Florian Wirtz is a pressing trigger. I definitely think he could be a very good pressing trigger for Liverpool. So here's him pressing Mike Magnan, presses the center back, I believe that's Fikayo Tomori, and they end up breaking free of the press. But I did like to see Flo as a potential player to lead the press. Of course Hugo could, but Hugo, as I've talked about in my Ekatike video, is a bit more of a soft presser. Flo is much more aggressive. So here's the biggest chance that we created in the game. I thought this was interesting. Here you have Dom picking up the ball deep. He passes the ball to Flo, who Flo kind of can do anything by rotating around, like 360 degrees he'll find a pass. He picked up the ball with his back facing goal and then was able to spray it to Tyler Morton, knowing that he was free. Incredible awareness as a footballer. He's sort of like a attacking 360 degree version of Pedri. Very, very cool footballer. He's not KDB. He's not going to thread in the incisive ball from the middle third to the final third, but as this like connecting, fully aware dribbler, he is potentially the best in the world. Tyler ends up finding Luka out wide. Luka, I think, reads that there's this potential cross to Flo, which I think was incredible. Luka really proved in this game that he could easily stay in the squad this season as a versatile cover for the pivot or right back or center back. He finds this ball to Flo, Mo vacates the space and then runs in behind. And then, of course, Flo, as this connecting player, finds Mo immediately. And I think if this is a Premier League game, Mo just slots this. He finesses it. But Mo's gone a little woke in this game because I think he was trying to get Flo a goal. And he tried this pass and it was short. So, yeah, I do really like what I saw, though. You can see an example of a lot of the technical play here, but it's also just Flo in the central role. I wanted him on the left half space. I think he's still good on the left half space, but man, seeing him in the central conducting role, I think he did a good job. And I could imagine him with a more channel running striker like Hugo, and I think it would really change the game for us. So let's look at the next panel. So here's an example of us defending in this really aggressive way where, once again, why is my left back one of my pivot players? My other pivot players up here for some reason. My right center back, my right back. Verge is just somewhere back there. We're seeing Tyler attempt to close him down. Doesn't succeed, but Ryan is just about able to bail himself out of jail from this aggressive position because the ball is loose, which is enough for Dom to finally get back in position and nick it. But incredibly risky. I think it's purely down to the personnel as to why we were conceding goals on the counter. But immediately, Flo and Sabo do some arrogant play and they get the ball to Rio. But the example of this is like, yeah, this can work, this really aggressive positioning from Ryan, but it's so risky. This easily could have been a second goal. We just need to understand that a lot of these problems were because Ryan was center back and not because of some fundamental problem with how we're playing. So our buildup was absolutely terrifying, right? And the way you get out of really terrifying buildup sometimes when you're trying to play it short is to just knock it long. Now, I thought we were really going to struggle with deep progression this season. And to some extent, I still think we will. But when Ryan made this pass, it really made me think of the Xavi Simons pass that he made where Simons failed to score. Because if you give Ryan enough time and space, knock the ball long, Rio brought it down brilliantly. He sized up Fikayo Tomori. Fikayo Tomori may not be an incredible player, but he's a good defender, and he got rinsed. Rio got a little lucky by getting the ball back, and then Dom, from the edge of the box, just whipped the ball into the far corner. What I want to say about Dom is, when Dom is able to play on the left, he's very good. He has a lot of passing bias on the left. One thing that we used to see at Leipzig at times when he didn't get to play on the left, or for Hungary, is that he can dink these balls in to the far post on his instep with his right foot, and it's something that we didn't get to see at Liverpool because he's predominantly occupying these right zones. And I think the only reason he plays on the right for Liverpool is because of defensive reasons, right? I think even it was planned for him to play on the left and Mac on the right initially when Klopp signed him, and then they realized that Mo and Trent on the same side was defensively poor. But seeing Dom being able to play on his favored side, smack the ball with his right and score, really shows that if we could enable this a bit more, maybe by him playing in the 10, Wirtz left wing and them interchanging, or vice versa, maybe Dom would start on the left, could definitely work. And it would be something that I would definitely do against teams like Newcastle, where we need midfield control. I would do that. Even if we had Ekitike and Isak, I would just start one of those guys at striker and play this sort of rhombus-like midfield. So our build-up can genuinely be terrifying, though, in short passing. Because here, Ryan gives the ball to Luka, who hasn't bombed forward yet because we've essentially just won the ball. He has to now give the ball here with the idea of Grav, then picking it up from Morton. That's the only way you're basically going to get out of jail, and that's essentially what happens. He could have gone to Verge, but the risk with going to Verge here is you underhit it, Ruben Loftus-Cheek just locks onto it and then scores a goal. It's much smarter if you can rotate and then just deliver the ball loose to Ryan, because harder angle for Christian Pulisic to close down. This player can't close close it down. So that's essentially the idea. Tyler is good at reading space, so he knows to do this. Gets it to Ryan. Ryan makes the only pass that he can make when he receives this ball, which is to go to Elliott. You could say he could go to Mo or Dom, but the angles are too risky. They could easily get intercepted, so makes a smart pass, gets to Harvey. Harvey now has Dom to give the ball to. He gives it to him, and I think Dom made the wrong decision here. I think he should have gone to Mo with the idea of Mo traveling it into Wirtz's run. He instead gave it to Rio because of how effective Rio was in that game. But what I liked here was, despite the personnel that we had, the buildup was still very neat and tidy. I think in possession, there's not much to worry about in this team. It's just out of possession. But I like seeing build-up combinations. It's very interesting to watch develop, something that Bronkhorst would be good at. Now, I've gotten some flack before about you don't want Wirtz on the touchline. This is an example of Wirtz being on the touchline and why it's actually not that problematic. He's very zoneless. You can play him anywhere. Flo gets the ball, murders the fullback, gone. He gets inside, gets around, and then plays the most insane ball to once again Mo, who continually is finding himself isolated on the right in all of the games that we're watching. Mo gets the ball, and then he doesn't really make the right decision. I think if I'm Mo, you should just try to Travella it the way that he always does to the back post. He instead kind of tried to this kind of swinging pass that got intercepted, but it was interesting to see Flo on the left. And again, we're just overall looking at the fluidity, looking at players like Verge in the box. I'm starting to see the development of this kind of very positionless seeming football that Slot's going for. At this point, I'm less likely to say that he's copying PSG. He's more so improving on what Cruyff started with total football. So here's an example of Florian Wirtz receiving the ball. The reason I picked out this clip is I think it demonstrates everything that Flo is. Picks up the ball. It has no angle bias or anything, so he's just able to run into space immediately. Gets by players in midfield. Only has a back four in front of him, and if he was here, he's not making this good pass, but since he's here, he can easily find someone like Elliott, but of course Elliott's not fast enough. But imagine you replace this with Hugo Ekitike. Ekitike gets here and scores this. Easily. He easily scores this. I mean, look at the ball. Ekitike smacks this into the goal. Harvey, just because he's not fast enough, doesn't get there. But it bodes well for us in possession. Again, no questions in possession. We're going to be incredible. That's why I think that we're going for this like score 7, concede 3 mentality. Now, here's another example of where is my left back. My left back is gone. This sort of looks like a midfield 3 here with Florian Wirtz. But the reason I picked this out is because Flo was seemingly wanting to do this deep build-up job. He ceded it to Dom, but he wanted to do it. So we might see Flo drop deep because he's playing as the 10 and not as the left winger. I think we are going to see a lot of scenarios where he drops deep. Here, Dom gives the ball to Flo, and again, doesn't matter that he received the ball with his body facing this way. He turns and he dinks a ball perfectly into space. He is a linking player. He is a connector. He ends up finding Mo, who ends up drifting inside from here to here. Luka overlaps him, and Mo has all of these options. It'll be interesting to see in the season how we utilize Mo and Flo and build up, but I think we're starting to see that Mo sometimes drops deep on the right hand side and Flo drops deep centrally, and our left winger seems to hold with and run in behind, with the possibility of coming inside when the left back overlaps. So interesting. We're continually seeing the development of these principles. Some people will say that this is just a preseason game, but we're seeing trends now that I think are becoming pretty consistent. You can't just ignore them at this point. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of scenarios that look like this. This is the final stage of what I've been talking about. Your left back is here for the 3-2-5, 2-3-5, 2-2-6. Is this dangerous? Yes, but if your pivot stays far back enough, if your center backs stay far back enough, if your left back is aware enough, if you rotate enough here, you will just about get by with the collective defensive effort. And it seems to be the risk that Arne is taking, because every manager tends to take a risk, and I think we're going to be risking counterattacks again. It's going to be similar to some of the problems under Klopp, but I think Slot's actually looking to rectify them by having more possession in the final third with more technical footballers. But overall, that's my take on this game. If you liked the video, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter. And as always, thanks for watching.